right, folks, and good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. Just to show you we're a timely show, I am approaching my 30th year on television. May 29th is my 30th anniversary on TV. And I'm bringing back some of my favorite guests over the last 2-3 decades. Here we are at the end of April. It's my last show in April. And I thought, who should I bring back for this show? One of the guys I really, really enjoy having as a guest, and have had as a guest over the years, is the Bristol County Sheriff. His name is Tom Hodgson. And I'm sure if you watch the show, you've seen him on here several times. And I bring him back again. And how you doing there, kid?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back, Bob. Hey, congratulations, 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
That's amazing. And
Oh,
you must have
I
started
haven't
when
made
you were
it yet,
20.
huh?
You must have started when you were what, 10?
9.
Yeah, 9.
9.
Okay. I knew it was close. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, though, that
awesome.
long doing the same
Goes
thing.
by quick, huh?
It sure does.
Yeah.
It sure does.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Doing good. Dealing with the working through the COVID stuff with the prison and trying to deal with the increased mental health problems that are associated with it. Obviously, the fentanyl problem that's pouring into our country and the impacts it's having on our communities. These are all big challenges that we're faced right now with regards to.
Now let's start with the COVID. How have you dealt with that? How has it impacted the prisons?
Well,
first of all, you handle the Bristol County House of Corrections and the New Bedford.
And the jail, Bristol County House of Corrections, which is located in Dartmouth, and then we have the jail.
I've been to both of them. I remember.
Yeah,
I mean, with you.
I was surprised you got out. You got out, but no.
I should have said that.
Yeah, that's always an important thing to point out early. Yeah. But the COVID challenge was particularly difficult for all prisons because effectively you have people confined in close space.
Right.
And but I will say we had dealt with the SARS virus years ago,
back then, yeah.
So we had a lot of protocols in place to do isolation, separation, looking for symptoms, and isolating people that needed to be tested, and the staff did a phenomenal job. We did better than most facilities in Massachusetts.
Now, do they all have to be tested, everybody?
No.
No?
No, not at all. We would, if there was somebody that was symptomatic,
right? Yeah.
Or someone had COVID in a unit, we would automatically test everybody.
Now, could they deny having the test?
Well, they could choose not to have the test, but they would be isolated.
Right.
And so they couldn't. Right. So there was no choice really, other than if you want to be isolated for 14 days. Right. Because you don't want to be tested, okay.
Okay.
That's your choice. But most of the inmates and detainees recognized that was an important thing to do. So we had to put a lot of different protocols in place. We had to, of course, our staff. We stopped all visits. We we had to really limit anyone coming into the facility except for staff.
Right.
And of course, we had to have protocols for our staff as well. Masking. Everybody has to have. They still have to have their temperature taken when they come to work. All of us. And if somebody has a temperature, they go home immediately.
Right.
And but we've fared through it. It's also impacted the population because what was happening was judges were letting people out because of COVID.
Right.
And they were saying it's too risky for them to be in there. The truth of the matter is, it was more risky for them to be out in the community.
Exactly.
A number of these places, people didn't have places to go. So what are they going to do? They're going to wander to stores, wander to here, wander to there. Right. Where here we had control.
You might wake up with one in your bedroom.
Yeah, well, you got control. We had control. So it really was actually much better in a controlled setting than perhaps judges thought it would be. Right. And I think our numbers prove that.
Now, do you go around the cells at any time?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I go in the facility. Yeah. I used to be in there quite a bit. Of course, with COVID and so forth, we were limited. But I go in periodically, and I'll walk through and talk to staff. I was in a unit the other day. We were actually, the nuns were there. The Sisters of Mercy giving bringing Easter
They should
package.
have all been in jail, the Sisters of Mercy. Yeah. I dealt with them for 9 years. I don't mean that, by the way.
Of course,
they were tough. They were tough.
Well, I had Holy Cross nuns when I was growing up down in Maryland, and I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But generally, the ones that behaved didn't have a problem. It was the students that didn't, and those are the ones that were always complaining about the nuns. Not that I'm suggesting that was what happened.
I'm
In your
complaining
case, you
now.
must have been the exception.
Hey, I dealt with it for 9 years.
Yeah.
I didn't leave, right?
And they're probably somewhere saying that they dealt with you for 9 years. So,
Exactly,
I guess it makes you even.
But wait a minute, I had this one particular nun in the second grade. Everywhere, when you're in a Catholic school, everything's a line to go to the bathroom, a line to go out to recess, a line to go for lunch. And I'm in the line, and this nun come up, she cracked me right in the face. And I go, what'd you do that for? She goes, you've been thinking bad thoughts, you smile too much. I'd have
She obviously knew you.
I have to frown just so I wouldn't get slapped.
Yeah, so you could have said, well, you wouldn't have dared said, well, sister, should I make that same presumption and pay you that tribute?
Yeah,
when
exactly.
I noticed that you're smiling?
No, just the opposite.
Yeah,
You're never smiling.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so anyhow, they came and they were giving Easter packages to the inmates.
Right.
And so I went into one of the units where they were, and they say a prayer.
Now, did you check their packages?
I don't need to check the packages of the nuns. I wanted to make sure I didn't get hit, right? Yeah. So I
Well,
I
what a great idea, though.
Yeah.
For a nun, a fake nun, to come in, and she's got some goodies for one or more of the prisoners.
Well, we'd know whether they were fake nuns or not.
You would?
Yeah, they would have to they have to check in before they go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know.
I'm the devious one. I can think of everything.
Right. And that's probably why you got slapped when you were in second grade. 'Cause
Exactly.
She knew you were thinking
then-
deviously. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you were smiling. She obviously was very perceptive.
All right. So what else is going on? You said the COVID.
Yeah, COVID, and then of course we're dealing with the increased mental health problems that are happening because COVID has weighed heavily, not only on inmates,
Right. Oh, and the general population.
but the general population as well. Our staff, it's a difficult job enough as a correctional officer to be dealing with adults who really don't always listen well. That you have to constantly, get over here, make sure you're doing this, and you're constantly having to correct that. Then on top of that, with the COVID, you had to be more concerned about making sure that they're sanitizing properly. You had to make sure they were wearing their masks when they're out of their cells, had to wear the masks.
Right.
And you constantly test. So it's one more thing, put on your mask, right? And so it was tense for everybody and difficult. And then on top of that, we had people that, if we had officers that had COVID, now we're having to force our officers, right? On double force.
You didn't have any pushback?
No, I made all of our staff essential. I felt that we're all in this thing together. We all need to be essential employees, and everybody worked through this, but not without difficulty for the officers and their families, because officers are being double forced.
What do you mean double forced?
Double forced is having to work back-to-back shifts. In other words, you're getting ready to go home. You're planning on going to something with your son or daughter for graduation or some dinner or whatever, and all of a sudden they say, can't go home, we got to force you on the second shift, we don't have enough people.
Now that happens a lot. That happens a lot in Rhode Island at the ACI.
Right.
And the people complain about that because of the overtime. But
yeah,
there is logic behind it, right?
Well, there is, but it also, we're sensitive, and I'm sensitive to the disappointments that the families feel.
Sure.
It's pressure at home for the other spouse having to deal with the kids. 8 hours, another 8 hours. Yeah. The officer goes home. Maybe the officers work 2 shifts.
And the kids are asleep by the time they get home.
Well, that, or depending on what shift they are, they may be coming home after a double force, and then they want to go to sleep, of course, but their wife or husband has to work.
Right.
So now they have to stay up and take care
With
of the kids, right?
Yep.
And so all of that plays in. And what we're seeing is not just in corrections, but I think, and I'm sure you've seen it, Bob, you've heard it, from private businesses all the way across the board, state police, everybody. They can't get people to, nobody wants to work overtime.
Nobody wants to work 8 hours,
And
let
people,
alone overtime.
you can't recruit people. People are switching jobs now after COVID and saying, I don't want to do that job anymore.
Right.
And so now we have this, and then on top of it, the anti-law enforcement sentiment that's been pushed by the progressives out there has really sort of soured people on being in corrections or in any public safety job like law enforcement.
Doesn't want the job anymore.
Right. So they're like, I don't need this job.
Right.
And so those are major challenges facing us all. The drug problem with fentanyl that's going on right now in this country, it's pouring in over the border. They just found a cube down in Florida that would have killed 500,000 people.
Wow.
500,000 people stamped with the cartels.
Right. Was that on a boat? They caught that? Was that on a boat? They caught that?
I don't remember if it was on a boat, but it had just happened recently. But
I know.
That's only one they caught. What about the ones they haven't gotten? Fentanyl is pouring into this country, and we're seeing moms and dads going to wake their kids up to go to work or to go to school, and they're not waking up.
Right.
Because they're dying of overdose.
Well, you know what doesn't make any sense to me? That's bad business, the drug dealers. That's bad business. You're killing your customers. That makes no sense.
Well,
Why would you lace, whatever, what are they lacing, cocaine or whatever with fentanyl or what?
yeah, the cartels they sell it to the dealers, and the dealers, I mean, they're gonna continue to sell. They don't expect that the people are gonna die, but they are, because they're not educated about fentanyl. They're putting it in pills they're making
them
counterfeit pills that look like something else, right? And they're not that. They got fentanyl in them. So and look, China's behind it all.
Yes.
China's involved, and they don't really care, because China would love to see our population be diminished tremendously. Yeah. So it's bigger than just the drug cartels. This is the problem. And so
because they get the fentanyl from China.
Right,
fentanyl comes from China to Mexico and then over the border.
Over the border. So this is a huge, huge business, and what's happening is we're in a situation now where the fentanyl is pouring in. We had to have 3 of our officers Narcaned in our facility. They went in to search a cell. Oh. Boom, one of them went down because they came in contact with it.
They're exposed to it.
Came in contact with
it.
Yep. So one guy had to be Narcaned 3 times, another one twice, I think. This is a dangerous, dangerous thing that's going on. And so what's happening is people are really at a point where they're coming into our facilities drug addicted. We have to deal with the detoxing in bigger numbers.
Wow.
So what happens is we have to go to what we call MAT. It's a new program. It's medically assisted treatment.
Right.
Where before we never allowed methadone in the prison. We didn't have Suboxone, but now because people were using it, they would try to hide it when they were given their dose, take it out, and then give it to another inmate.
No way.
And sell it to them for canteen. Yeah. So
for canteen, that means they got money in there.
They'd have their girlfriend or boyfriend outside send money in to that other inmate's account.
And the other guy doesn't have nothing in his account, so he's using that to get access to his canteen.
To get money. Yeah. So this is it's a problem, but it's one that we have to deal with because there's so many people coming in with the problem. And then of course there's Vivitrol.
What is that?
Vivitrol is a shot that we give if people want it a month before they leave, if they have an addiction issue, and it blocks the inhibitors. So
it blocks the effect, you mean?
Yeah, the desire to get the drug. It doesn't allow them to get.
And how long does that shot last?
It lasts a month. So every month they need to get a shot on the outside and maintain that. The problem always is that it's like methadone. If you don't change this up here, whether you're going to get methadone or you're going to get drugs every day or every week, you still believe in your mind you have to be dependent on something to survive. Right. Until you can change this part, the other things are just kind of a maintenance thing, but they don't really get you away from the addictive part, right? Yeah. So that's always been sort of my concern about not doing the other piece of it, which we do. We do counseling and things like that, but the problem is it's gotten the problem's so big now in our country that we've had to go to this new approach, as other sheriff's offices have in prisons across the nation, because it's.
You mean give them the shot?
Oh, get the shot or the medically assisted treatment, the methadone, which we normally would never have done, but now we have to do it based on the new regulations and the.
What do you think this new thing they're trying to push on the outside about having places where they can take their heroin or whatever they?
No.
It makes no sense to me.
No, because you're
encouraging it.
It's like what government does so often. It's no different than the border, encouraging people to violate the law because you know what, we're not going to fix the problem. We're going to let you keep coming in violation of the law. We're not going to fix the problem of addiction. We're going to just let you maintain it Come to a safer place where you're not going to leave needles somewhere. Okay, how does that change anybody's thought about whether or not that's a good thing for you? Yep. They're already in an addictive situation, so why are you playing off of that? Get them into, build some treatment centers. Put people in treatment centers and make them go through the full treatment.
Make them get off it.
Right. But again, people in government too often try to just take the simplest approach that they think is going to gain them points, with whichever group they think is going to get them more votes. And that's sadly what's happened across America, not just in Washington, but in states across the nation. And it's time, I think, for people, I think we all recognize that this is our time in history. This is a time where every one of us have an obligation to say, you know what, I hired you to represent me and my family and to protect us and our neighborhoods. And you know what? If you're gonna sit there and abuse the trust we gave you and make this all about you, we're getting you out of here. You're not doing it anymore. Because we've gotten to such a place in America, I believe, where people, most of society either was intimidated into not speaking up, with all this woke attacks and social media nonsense.
Right, yeah.
And then on top of that, people became very apathetic about government. That government could really do anything. They started to feel like, well, I can't really change it. But they were always thinking singularly. But I always remind everybody, whether you're in an official position in law enforcement, whether you're a professional host, whether you're a doctor, whatever it is, every one of us were chosen for this time in history. Our parents had a different challenge, and our grandparents had a different challenge. It was threatening America. Right. In a different way, America was spiraling down. And you know what? Ours is an unusual challenge, but we have to ask ourselves. Well, it'll be said of us by our kids and our grandkids. Did my mother and father, or my grandfather, or my grandmother, when America was spiraling downward,
were they up for the challenge?
Did they say, you know what, it's not my problem. You all figure it out when you get to this age and fix it. Or did they say, my mother, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother, when they saw America spiraling downward, they did exactly what their parents and their grandparents did when America was threatened as well. And they stood up for us and passed on a more prosperous, safer America. And I think that's what we want all of our kids to say of us, all of our grandkids, that we didn't stand down, we stood up. And I think that's the crossroad we're at right now. And it's the only way we're going to reclaim the values of this nation and reclaim the rule of law and the things that we always held dear to be able to live in a democracy and live in a free world.
Since they started that defund the police stuff, and crime has gone rampant, right?
Oh,
and murders are out of this world.
Police shootings.
Philadelphia.
Police shootings are up 43%.
Exactly.
The officers being shot. I mean, they just don't care. I mean, you're gonna just walk into, you have a business, you own real estate property. Somebody's just gonna walk in and say, you know what, I'm robbing. I'm taking everything you have in your furniture, and you're not doing anything about it. Because I'm gonna come in 4 or 5 guys. We're gonna go in there. We're taking the stuff out, and if you dare to stop us,
we'll come out.
And then you got the politicians going, you know what? They're not really the bad people. They need furniture.
They need furniture. Of course they need furniture.
And where we are now, Bob, and I think you probably agree, probably most of the viewers would agree with this, it's a very sad place, but what's happened is we've allowed a lot of these politicians, these progressive politicians, to say, you know what? The victims are really the criminals. They're the ones that are the victims.
Right.
And the real victims, us, you know what? You're invisible.
Right.
We don't see you. We don't care about you, because we think these people are really the victims. And you see it in some of the courts, the way that they just let people out or don't want people to have bail.
Right.
Because look, I don't care what your socioeconomic level is.
A crime
is a crime. If you victimize somebody, why should you getting bail be dependent upon whether or not you
come from a good family or come from a bad family, have a tough upbringing.
Right. It's almost like what you see going on in immigration, right? So you watch the evolution of illegal immigration. What did they start saying? Oh, they're not illegal immigrants, they're undocumented
Right,
immigrants,
of
right?
course.
The driver's license bill in Massachusetts for illegals is the Family Work Mobility Act, right? To make it seem like, oh, these are families that just want to work.
Right.
No, these are people that came into the country illegally.
Right.
And the people that honored and respected the laws of the United States and still do, the 5 million around the world,
Right.
waiting their turn, taking the test, doing things according
And
to the
wait
rule
for
of law.
years to
Yes.
get across the border.
And still doing it. So what do they get for a driver's license?
Right, right.
Right?
No, they wait their turn.
They wait their turn and they do what they're supposed to do. There's no excuses having to be made of why they need the driver's license. They go and they take the test like everybody else.
And I had an argument with a friend over this immigration thing. I said, well, what about quotas that every other country has to deal with? You come from France, you come from Germany, you come from Italy, you come from Lithuania, whatever. They're only letting so many of each of these groups in, except when it comes to the Mexican-American border.
Right, but that's a great point. And I think too, an important thing for everyone to remember is, and it gives you some perspective around this. So they keep saying that the people are coming here because they're living in violent neighborhoods in Mexico and what have you. And maybe some of them are.
They're living in violent neighborhoods in Detroit, in Philadelphia,
Exactly.
Chicago.
Exactly. And my question is, where do the kids in Chicago run? Mexico?
Right, yeah,
Canada?
exactly, yeah.
You try running into Mexico because you don't want to stay in Chicago anymore, and go in there, and when they approach you and tell you you can't be here,
Right.
you tell them, I don't care. I don't care whether you have a law that says I can or not. You're going to pay for my food, you're going
Right.
to pay for me a place to stay, and you're going to put me through an education in
Guess
school.
what? It ain't happening.
No, you're going to get the place to stay.
Yeah,
It's going to be in
it's
this
called a
old
prison.
dilapidated jail cell.
Right.
Right? And you'll be eating bread and water for years.
I tell people all the time, just look at the Mexican immigration laws compared to the U.S. immigration laws.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
They offer absolutely no social services to Americans if they go across the border. And if you say anything out of line or you try to protest, like a lot of these Mexicans, like especially in L.A., when they come, they're waving the Mexican flags or whatever.
Right.
If that happened in Mexico, you know what happens to those people?
Oh, yeah.
They're all going to jail. Or they take everything they own and they throw them across the border.
Yeah, and the other thing, a lot of people are shocked by this. I was speaking out in Arizona at the border, and we had a rally out there, and I was telling the people there, I don't know, you're probably not aware of this, and it'll probably shock you when I tell you this.
Yeah.
Massachusetts, according to the Pew Research report, between 2007 and 2017, had the highest influx of illegal aliens in any other state in the
whole
United
country,
States.
yeah.
Right? We're 2,500 miles from the border. We're 2,500 miles from the border, okay? So don't tell me that this border crisis doesn't affect our communities. And now the Biden administration pulled a fast one behind, like they do, in the cloak of darkness, bringing people in. They just dropped off a busload in Dartmouth. Not our place, but right in the community, Route 6. But they then decided to do these 10 destination distribution centers. Boston happened to be one.
Really?
Of course, in the country. Do you know in July when they started it in Boston, there were 25, I believe, people that showed up there to register. And then between July and October, they had 20,000. And I got information from the ICE office out of Boston, said, you got to come up and see this. So what happens is, the way it works in the destination distribution center, you and I come across the border.
Right.
We go up to a border agent. They're not going to send you back. So they say, where are you going? Oh, we're going to Massachusetts. Do you have an address? Yeah. So we get some fake address that somebody gave us. The border agent doesn't know. So he gives you a piece of paper. He gives us paper, says, okay, this is the address of the Burlington office in Boston.
Right.
When you get there, go register. They're going to register you in, give you a court date about 8 or 9 years down the road to see whether or not you can stay.
8 or 9 years?
Yeah, oh yeah,
down the road?
that's about what they are now.
Are you kidding me?
No, that's how far out they are.
So
then,
they get to stay in this country for 8 or 9 years.
Oh yeah, and
Then you ain't throwing them out after that.
hey, good luck finding them going to whatever court.
But even if you do, now they got a family, they got 3 kids.
Yeah, of course.
They're all become citizens immediately being born in the United States.
Right. That's all part of the plan. And then they say, and they'll also give some of you a piece of paper. You can go out and get a job. Okay. One of the agents told me, said, you got to come up here and see this. Come up on Monday morning. You're going to think you're at the front of Disney World with the rope lines. People line up. They're pulling up in Ubers. They're lined up like this, just waiting to register. All the ICE agents that normally were out looking for people who are here illegally, terrorists and others, they're tied up doing administrative work, logging people in. And what happens is these people, 50% of them don't show up, number one, to register. The others, they're off into the sunset, right? And guess who's paying for all this? And where are they? They're all pulling up in Ubers. Where are they getting the money?
Right.
Where are they? This past month, 200,000 people came in.
I was going to say that to you, yeah.
You know that's
know that.
Over the population of both New Bedford and Fall River combined.
Right.
So look at that, 1 month. Where is there a New Bedford and a Fall River sitting vacant? Vacant homes,
Right.
grocery store, banks, fire departments, hospitals, and schools waiting to be occupied. There aren't any.
No.
And where are they going to get the money? If you just came in over the border, you're not coming in with money. Where are you getting the money? Right. Where are you living? Where are you paying? That's why they're bringing them in under the cloak of darkness, in secrecy. They don't want law enforcement to know. They don't want any of us to know. And that is a direct undermining of our ability to keep you, your family, and the neighborhood safe. And it should outrage every single person in America.
Because you don't know who these people are. There's no accountability. I argue with this friend of mine all the time. He goes, oh, no, you got to help these people. They're God-fearing, they're workers. I said, no, first of all, they're not all workers, number one. They're not all workers. Right. And secondly, you don't know who they are. You don't know if they're in gangs, MS-13 or whatever.
There are plenty of them.
Yeah, whatever other kind of gang. And it kind of leads into what I said about Chicago and Detroit and Philadelphia. A lot of these gangs have that violence is a result of these gangs.
Right. And if the American people and people like that feel that there should be more people allowed to come in, then tell Congress to change the law. Tell them to change the law. But we did not hire Congress to say, you go down there and pick and choose who has to follow the law and who doesn't. And give special groups of people exemptions. It isn't your place. You don't like the law the way it is? Change it. But they won't. You know why? Because it's all about politics on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
They are more worried about their politics than they are about taking care of you, me, and our families. And that's the truth. And everybody, I hope, has come to that realization by and large that either we're gonna allow this to go on, or we're gonna say, you know what?
I've had enough.
Enough is enough. I didn't pay you to go out and do it. I trusted you to go do the job for us, and you're not. And so I really believe, Bob, that we're in a place right now where we can't keep trying to justify, well, you know, these people need help. They need this, they need that. You know what? Take money out of your pocket and put it into a charity.
Right.
If you want to do that.
Or bring them in your house.
Yeah, we're the most generous country in the world.
Yep.
We bring in over 1 million people a year, right? More than any other country.
Right.
How many more do we need to bring in, and why do we need to bring them in if they don't want to follow the rules? There are plenty of other countries that have problems too.
Right. And plenty of other countries would like to send more people, or more people from these other countries would like to come into this country.
And many of them wouldn't come if it wasn't encouraged by the government to say, when you get here, don't worry about it, we're going to take care of you.
Right.
Because in Massachusetts, of course, gets the big numbers because we have such benefits in the public sector programs.
Same thing in Rhode Island. Same thing in Rhode Island.
Yeah, and so how is that fair to anyone, and particularly the people that have built the communities, who are paying taxes, who've done the right thing, supported their churches, their civic organizations, and are now being told, you know what, we don't have enough money because we now have to cover for these illegal aliens who are coming in, and so we're going to have to cut your after-school programs for your kids. How is that right? And why should the level of education be diminished because they're pushing kids that speak different languages into the classroom?
Into the same classroom, and the regular kid or the kid that's from here
Gets slowed down.
slow down because he's waiting for that. You got to say 3 or 4 times what's going on with this particular subject matter.
Right.
And they're sitting back and going like this, you know.
And how about public housing? I mean, your mother, your father, they did all the right things. One of them passes away. Now the other one needs to have paid taxes all their lives. Now they want to be in public housing, it's elderly housing.
No spot
Can't
for
get in because 20% or more are occupied by people who are here illegally. So
Is it that high?
yes, yes. And it may even be higher at this point. I'm going back a couple of years on the 20%.
Wow.
So this is as un-American as it gets. And those of us, I mean, I love the fact that you have done the show for 30 years because I think people have learned a lot of different things with a lot of your different guests that they otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to learn. And about your misbehavior with the nuns too. I don't want to leave that one out. But really, it's so important where we are right now that we really honestly look in the mirror as Americans and say, we're good people. We help anybody we can. But this isn't about us not wanting to help people. This is about politicians who have imposed upon
Want to help
us.
themselves.
That's what it's about. And they've wanted to help themselves at everybody else's expense. And when you say, Joe Biden's been in there, was in, 50 years he's been in public office. He was in the Senate for God knows how long.
Right.
He was involved, when I was dealing with this 25 years ago on immigration, I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yep.
He knew that gangs were coming in, killing innocent Americans. He knew drugs were pouring in. He still knows that.
Right.
And basically what he's saying, along with all these other politicians in Washington that refuse to deal with this issue, they're basically saying, hey, you know your kid that died 3 years ago from a fentanyl overdose or got killed by some criminal illegal alien? Your kid didn't matter, life didn't matter then, and the ones that are going to die tomorrow, and there'll be plenty more.
They don't matter
They don't matter either, because you know what? Our politics is more important than your kids' lives.
Right.
And people don't want
Our
to
getting reelected is more important.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is we have to face that reality and say, what do we owe? Do we owe our neighbor the protection that they otherwise could have by standing up and saying, no, you're not doing this anymore? Bring these congressmen to a meeting in your communities, like they're doing in Virginia with the school committees. Those parents have stood up, and God bless them, right? And we need to do that everywhere across this nation on the issues of immigration and these places where they've hijacked government and used it to make themselves richer, to make themselves get elected, right? By playing to things they know are wrong or in direct violation of the law. And so what we need to do is, as an American people, we need to come together like they're doing in Virginia and say, come to this meeting. We're inviting you to this meeting, Congressman. And we want to know what you're going to do right now to take action to stop the fentanyl pouring into our neighborhoods. We want to know what you're going to do. And this is what we want from you. And if you're not going to do it, we're going to go out there and we're going to find everybody we can to vote against you. Exactly. It ain't okay. And that's where we're going to take back America. And the sheriffs across this nation, I work with so many sheriffs. It was like 300 or more went down with me to Washington.
Well, you're probably the best known sheriff in the country, or certainly one of them.
Well, I don't know.
Your idol there, what's his name?
Arpaio?
Arpaio.
Yeah, he's retired now.
He's died, huh?
No, he's still living. His wife
he?
just passed a few months back, but I was with him
From
about...
Arizona?
He's in Arizona. He's originally from Massachusetts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was a DEA agent, and he lived in Springfield area, and then he moved out to Arizona and ran for sheriff. And he was in for about 13 years, I think. But I was just with him.
He made the headlines a lot of times.
Oh, he did. I was out with him about 5-6 months ago. I was out there at the border, and I stopped in to see him, and he's still...
I still want to go to the border, by the way.
Oh, yeah. There are going to be opportunities.
I want to go down the border.
You got to see it. I've been there 5 times, and it's as bad as it's ever been. It's as bad...
200,000 people in 1 month?
That they know of.
Oh, that they caught?
They caught.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's probably double or triple that.
Oh, and wait till they get rid of Title 42. But you know...
Which is coming up, right?
Oh, yeah, in May. But you know, Bob, the other thing that nobody really talks a lot about, but ought to be talked about, I joined one of the ranchers associations down there when I was down there, because I listened to this rancher tell me he has lost 50% of his cattle. Because
they're killing for food.
The deer tick. Well, not only that, they're coming across. People are dying on people's property, right? I mean, these farmers ranchers have acres and acres, and these people, They're afraid to go to the barn at night to check
Right.
on the animals
Yes.
because they don't know who's in there,
Right.
right? And what a way to live. And all they're doing is trying to provide, meat to everybody in the United States
Right.
as a service. And now they're under threat. People walking all over their properties, drug dealers, people with guns threatening their ranch hands and all this stuff. Where are we in America, these elected officials, these members of Congress, ignoring that? And these are people that feed the food chain in America.
Right.
That are now losing.
They're Americans.
50% of the cattle ranchers in Starr County had to shut their business after generations, right? Because they weren't, the border wasn't being controlled, people were being intimidated, people are afraid. And why should they be? All they want to do is ranch their farm, work their ranches, and do good things for good people. And now they're under threat, and they're like, nobody can protect us. This is not America.
Doesn't make sense.
Not the America we grew up in. And it isn't the America I think our kids ultimately, when they get to be adults, want America to be. Right? They want to have a fair opportunity. Look, we're generous. We'll bring people in that need help, but not at the expense of the lives of innocent people. Where are these politicians? I don't see them at these funerals. I didn't see Biden down there when that Texas Ranger got pulled out of the water that went in there to save, ultimately, 2 drug dealers.
Right, yeah, wasn't that odd?
He drowns trying to save people.
Trying to save people.
Yeah, and the people that he saved were people that were encouraged by the Biden administration and these others who were pro-illegal, just come on in, no security at the border, don't worry about it, come on in. They are complicit in all of this. And they asked me the other day, I was on a Fox and Friends show, and they asked me, tell me over the next 20, 30 seconds, what would you say to President Biden?
That's a good question.
And I said, number one, he needs to stop looking past all the mothers and fathers who are walking into their kids' bedrooms to wake them up and they're not waking up because of the fentanyl he knows is pouring into this country. And number two, he needs to stand up for the rule of law. He took the same oath that I took. And he needs to uphold that oath and protect the American people and do his job. And number three, he ought to be ashamed of himself. And I feel very strongly about that, and every other elected official, and all those secretaries that are around him down there in Washington that don't care. I was on doing a Radio Row show, called Radio Row, for 2 days in Washington last year, and they were asking me, what do you think of the situation right now? I said, well, I never honestly thought in my lifetime I would be living the script of The Wizard of Oz.
And you say that in what way? What do you mean?
So I said, you just only look like 10 blocks down here to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You got the whole cast.
Oh,
you have the lion. You have the lion who has no courage. You got the Tin Man who has no heart, and you have the Scarecrow with no brain. I said, I'm not even going to go there about the Wicked Witch of the West, right? Yeah. And I said, and whatever you do, don't forget about the guy behind the curtain pulling the lever saying, pay no attention to what's behind that curtain, because that's exactly what this whole game plan's about. Distract the American people every time they start to hone in that this is not right, they'll create something over here to take you away from having any time to really hone in on it and deal with it, because there'll be another thing over here. And that's the game they've been playing since they've been in. And it has only been exacerbated by the fact that the president, I think most people recognize, sadly, is not at a good place mentally. Nobody likes to see that happen to anybody. But this isn't just about that. It's about the people around him who are exploiting that, including the Obama people, who frankly, in my view,
they're still running the show.
This is Obama's third term.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I think the American people have finally started to see it.
And wait a minute. How about his vice president? I saw an interview where she was asked like 10 times, "Are you going to go to the border? Are you going to go to the border?" And she kept on circumventing and refusing to answer the question.
And why wouldn't you go to a place that you knew was the epicenter of so many problems, so many innocent people's lives lost, more drugs pouring in, and more threats to kids and to our communities? Why wouldn't, if you are the vice president or president of the United States, you want to go there and send a strong message. They don't.
And a former prosecutor on top of it.
Right. They don't. And there's a reason for that. And I think all of us have to be honest, recognize that, and say, are we now part of this sort of charade? are we going to do something different? Are we going to take back America? And I don't mean in a sort of violent way. I'm talking about in a way that we reclaim what our founders gave us, which was the opportunity. It was supposed to be a government by and for the people, not by and for the politicians. Right, which is what it's become. And so, when I'm dealing at this level as a sheriff, and my brother and sister sheriffs across the country, we answer directly to the people. We are not going to stand down on the rule of law. We're not going to walk away. We're not going to turn our backs. People need to know that there are elected officials in this country who are going to stand up and reclaim America and reclaim the values and virtues and principles and rule of law that protects our democracy. And when we speak out and they speak out with us, don't worry about us. We're not going to put our finger in the air and see which way things are going. We're forging ahead. And we want everybody in America to join with America's sheriffs and stand with us, because we are united to do this. And it's happening. And we got things happening all around the country right now with regards to the conversations. And more and more sheriffs are speaking out and saying, no, it's not okay. Not okay.
Well, how's it going to be with how do you think the election is going to go in November? How do you think that's going to happen?
I think nationally, the people are finally, I think people have decided that if you're going to be in public office, regardless of what your party is, you better be focused on the more conservative, fundamental values that matter to us and our families. More than ever, I think they're paying attention to that now. And these sort of really progressive, liberal people that have been, supported by George Soros and others, who are undermining our criminal justice system, undermining our economy, undermining our public health and public schools, they're done with it. They're going to elect people that are willing to speak up, speak out, and stand up for them, because that's what they elected us to do, not to be sort of, kowtowing to what they want for themselves. Right. They now want you, and I think you're going to see more and more. I don't like to use the term, not that I'm a Republican, but the party line stuff. I like to talk about what are the individuals going to do. Right. What is the qualities and characters that America are looking for in an individual, regardless of what your party is, right? And I think what they're looking for is they're looking for some people to stand up, say what honestly is on their mind and what they believe is right for the American man, and fight for it, and fight with the American. But give them a reason to rally around you. And because in the end, and public safety, I think, is one of the key, if not the key area to make that happen, because you and I could have different opinion on abortion, climate change, whatever else. But one thing we all agree on is we want ourselves, our families, and our neighborhoods and this nation to be safe. And therein lies the bully pulpit for law enforcement, and the ability to be able to be the magnet that will draw the country together and take it back quickly. And I think that's what's going to happen as you see this election coming up in November. You're going to see people start to be more outspoken and do it with their vote.
Well, when you see what happened in California when they decriminalized a burglary, they made it a misdemeanor.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're just charging into, do you know they closed 19 Walgreens in the San Francisco area?
I didn't know the number, no. I knew they closed some.
Because they were losing so much money. Because these people go in with backpacks on, and right in front of the security guard, they take the backpack. The security guard, they've been told, don't accost anyone, don't stop anybody. And they empty the shelves or whatever was worth money.
Right.
I don't know, cosmetics or whatever, something that, medication, over-the-counter medication.
They'll just walk in.
And go right by them.
Yeah. Yeah, and they don't have they're not even running out of stores anymore. They're just going in with bags, taking what they want, and going out. And some of these stores are like, they don't want to have a lot of problems with it. People give them a hard time, so they just let them go. And it's gotten to a point now. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was yesterday. The sheriff out of Florida. They had him on, and he said, "You know what? We've had so many burglaries in our community. I'm telling you all right now, if someone breaks into your home in this county,
shoot him.
I'm telling you to shoot him."
Yep.
Right? Yep. Telling you that's a sheriff who has gotten to a point where he feels the laws, even the enforcement of the laws, aren't even being upheld, right? that if people, that it's become so crazy where these people are encouraging, these people in the justice system are encouraging people to go in stores, nothing's going to happen to you. I mean, you got you're
going to get a slap on the wrist and you're going to go back out again.
Yeah, you're right back out again. I mean, if you steal anything over $250 and you give it back, we're not going to charge you? Really?
Yeah,
So basically what you're saying is keep trying. Maybe you'll succeed a couple times, but don't worry about it. It's worth trying because we're not going to do anything to you, okay? If you give it back, right? So you know, when that happens, and this particular sheriff saying, in my county, there's so many burglaries. The only way I can help you stop this is if you do what you have to do and you have a right to do. Shoot them, and then they'll start figuring out. You have a weapon. You're going to wonder twice, am I going to break into this house or not? Because I don't know if these people have a weapon, right? Now the reality starts to hit home, and that's how you deter crime, when people understand that there's penalties. You don't necessarily want it to always be by violence, right? You want the courts to do it. Right. You want these elected officials to do it.
But if they're not doing it.
And they're undermining it.
Right.
They leave no other choice but for people to be able to protect themselves, and then they complain about gun control. Right? Same people. Oh, we need gun control. Okay, so not only are you not going to enforce the laws and you're going to empower the criminals to break into my home, but then on top of that, you're going to take my gun away so I can't protect myself. Right. So when they come in with their illegal guns, they can kill me.
Yeah, because the people with legal guns are going to follow the law.
Of course. And so therein lies the hypocrisy of all of this that I think you're frustrated with, I'm frustrated with, and I think probably all the viewers out there are frustrated with. You know, it is not brain science to figure out how we take back America. It's not. It's very clear what we need to do. Yep. The question is, do we collectively together have the will to do it? Do we have the will to do what I think all of us know needs to be done, that we owe to our kids and our grandkids? Because when we're gone, they're going to be left with whatever burden is there. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I don't think any one of us wants to make life more, it's difficult enough for our kids today. Why would we want to make it, almost impossible for them and let countries like China and other places advance their international initiatives to undermine America? Right? And know that our kids are going to be under greater threat. Why? Why would we do that? And I don't think people are doing it intentionally. I think it's just kind of evolved that way because of how we allowed these politicians to make all these decisions on our behalf, thinking they were doing the right thing. And honestly, I think a lot of it too got caught up in people just kind of threw their hands up and said, forget it, because you have, even in the news, you never see anybody drill down into the depths of the issue. It's always about, you said this, you said that. You did that wrong, you did that wrong. So it's always a back and forth like this, so you never get down to here. Yep. So people just get tired of hearing the noise of back and forth fighting, and they're like, oh, no, nobody gets along. They never get to look
the gist of the problem.
The gist of the problem. And I think so that's played into this. But here we are. It's 2022, and it's our time. And we were clearly chosen for this time. Just like the Patriots back when. Not everybody jumped on board, right? Right. Not everybody at that time jumped on board, but a lot of people did. And you know what? They passed on to us an amazing country, right? And incredible values and opportunities. And so, we have a legacy to follow. And we have an obligation.
I was looking at, we were worried, I thought there was two extremes. There's no more middle of the road. There's no more moderates. Supposedly Joe Biden was a moderate, but he's gone the other way. Oh, yeah. He's gone totally progressive. And I was looking at, you don't have it in Massachusetts, but they have this thing called Rhode Island rent relief. And I had an apartment for rent recently. And I've had people coming, and it's reasonably expensive. And I got these young kids coming, 18 and 19-year-olds, and they want to rent the apartment. I have them fill out the application, of course, and I see it, and I go, where do you work? They work at a restaurant. I said, what do you do there? They're both dishwashers. They can't be making a lot of money. In fact, it showed they were totally making like $1,800 a month. Mm-hmm. And to go to rent an apartment, it's $1,400 a month. Mm-hmm. kind of doesn't add up,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't work.
I said, well, how are you going to afford this apartment? Oh, we got Rhode Island rent relief. I go, what is that? I said, I've seen the advertisement, but I don't know what it is. They said, we're eligible for up to 18 months of free rent. And in some cases, it even covers their electric and their heat.
Oh, it's so nice of you Rhode Islanders to do that for everybody.
That's called socialism, isn't it? Isn't it on the way to
Yeah,
socialism?
you know, I think to your point, Bob, and it's a great one, I think, look, we've always been a country that we've always had support for those people who really need it.
Right.
Right, that can't work or haven't been able to get a job, not because they didn't try. But that's not the same thing. That's very different.
No.
The handouts are only meant for the purposes of making sure you vote for me because I'm the guy that gave you the money.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And we've seen it. We saw it with the African American community. Keep
Yes.
your thumb down and for generations make them believe that that's a good place to be.
Right.
You don't have to go out and work. You don't have to the money will just come.
Yep.
And sadly, they basically created this mindset, and it really kind of suppressed some people who otherwise would have probably been able to contribute a great
Right.
deal to America, right? But for the fact that they were always made to believe that you can't make it, you need this money, and we'll keep adding
We'll
more
just
and
keep
more.
getting it. We'll just keep giving it to you.
Because if I'm the guy that's giving you the money, but then when somebody comes in to try to teach them after they've been getting it for in the ways you just spoke of,
Right.
what happens is they start to look at the people that are trying to actually do what should have been done to begin with, teach them the values of work
Right.
and getting out there.
They're the enemy.
You're the enemy. And they don't realize that that's the person that's trying to give you the gift that's going to let you launch yourself on a foundation that you can grow, become a millionaire if you want.
Exactly.
But you will never be a millionaire if you allow these people to just play you and keep throwing money at you so you never really feel the need to go maximize the potential you have within yourself. And therein lies the problem.
I said to the girl, I said, and both of them, I said, what are you going to do when the money runs out? What do you mean? I said, how are you going to pay the rent when the money runs out? Well, we'll get another job. I said, really? So the chase is on. Now as a landlord, I got to worry about trying to get them out of the house, right?
Correct.
And it might take me months. So I feel bad for the poor young couple, the young guy, young girl, young couple, whatever they are,
That are working.
that are working, and they decide to buy a multifamily because they don't want to buy a single family because they figure it's smarter to buy the multifamily first, have that a few years, and then they can have the money to buy a single family with the multifamily help paying for the bills of the single family, which is what I did. But how about that couple, that young couple that spent everything they had and maybe had a small wedding because they wanted to use the money for a down payment on a house instead of having a big wedding. And now they own this house, and now they got people like this in the house.
Right.
And then 8 months, 10 months, whenever their rent relief runs out, they ain't moving.
Right.
So now the fight is on. Now they got to hire a lawyer to get them out. They stay for up to 90 to 120 days for nothing. These people have to worry about paying the mortgage.
Right. And what about people like yourselves who have rental properties during COVID? In Massachusetts, they're saying you can't go after them.
Right.
You have to let them live there.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, so who pays that bill?
And how about if you're also not only, but I don't do this, but what about the landlords that supply the utilities? Not only are they not paying rent, but you're paying to heat them, you're paying for their electricity. In the wintertime, you're paying the heating bill. In the summertime, you're paying their air conditioning bill and their regular electric.
Right.
I mean, I'd be pulling my hair out.
Yeah. Well, I would too if I had some. But the point is, it's not, that's the problem. Again, it goes back to who's government really representing? The people that are investing, that are trying to grow the economy, that are doing things responsibly, are the ones that they keep piling more bricks on your back, and more bricks on your back, more bricks on your back till your back breaks. I mean, that isn't America.
What is it, like 48% of the population pays for the other 52% of the population? Something like that.
Yeah, I think it's
know
less
it's
than
close.
that. But that's, look, when you have those kinds of systems in place and use policies in place, you're not doing good things for people in America. you're not
And
creating.
you're not even helping those kids.
No,
you're
you're
not
not.
helping those kids because they're not learning anything.
You're setting them up for failure.
Exactly.
You're setting them up for failure. And it's, look, it's, we're at a really crucial time. And the things that you're raising, I think the viewers out there have probably all experienced one way or another some of what we're talking about because I think everybody wants to be successful in life. It's the forces on the outside that are kind of corralling people into this place because they believe that they can use their power,
Right.
and that they will make it more and more difficult by using resources that were supposed to go to a different place, but they're now using it for their political advantage.
Right. Instead of going to fix our roads, they're giving it to the people. Do you know that high school kids, I was shocked when I saw this. I was at a milk store, and I see it, and the first time I saw it was several months ago, but now I see it all the time. They come out of the high school, and
Can I ask you a question? Why do they call it milk stores, not like a bread store?
I know, bread and milk store, variety store.
Yeah, okay.
I come out, I stop there for milk and a lottery ticket. That's all I get there. And I talk to the owner. I'm talking to the owner. He's got a clerk working. And these kids come in, flowing in out of the high school, right? And they come and they grabbing 4 or 5 little bags of potato chips instead of get a big bag, right? And they're getting their cookies and their cupcakes and their soda and everything, and they're putting it on the counter, and they whip out a card. At first, I thought it was a credit card. I'm saying, what's the, high school kids, 16, 17 years old, doing a credit card? So I noticed one, okay, then the next one, another one, then the next one. And they're spending $7, $8, $10 each time, sometimes a lot more. And so I finally said, when it cleared out, I said to the guy, I go, they all got credit cards? He goes, that's not a credit card. He says, that's an EBT card. I go, why have they got an EBT card? He goes, all the high school kids got them. They get, I think it's $250 a month in their EBT card. I mean, I was cringing at the thought of it. I can remember when I was in high school. I can remember when I was in grammar school, and I worked in the cafeteria just to be able to get a meal.
Yeah.
Because my father died, and we were 8 of us, and we had nothing. So we did whatever we had to do. We walked around with the radio wagon and picked up bottles at 2 cents deposit.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
These kids are getting $250 for doing nothing. They wonder why these kids don't want to work. They're not going to get them to work.
No, and look what they're doing with people coming in over the border. They're giving them the debit cards, so they have a debit card.
Right.
They're giving anyone that comes in with kids. Each kid gets $500. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Airfare, free airfare.
Right.
You notice that and this is the irony of all of it. Not only are they encouraging people to come in violation of the law, they're basically saying if you do it, we're going to give you all the support you need to get wherever you need to go.
Right.
And as much as we can give you money, we'll give you money from the taxpayers that have built this country. And on top of that, you ever notice that they go buy security at the airport?
Yes.
Right. They don't have papers to go through. We have to have them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We have to have them.
Exactly.
You got to go through the checkpoints.
Yep.
They get led around by the border people, the ICE people. They get led around and taken to the gate.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So again,
we got 10 seconds. You got it.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. It's always great to be on with you. You got a great expansive mind about a lot of different issues, and it's just fun to be on the show. And congratulations again on your 30 years. That's pretty amazing.
And I'm happy to have brought you. To take that as a compliment, because I pick and choose the guests I'm going to have, and for the last several months and up until the 29th of May.
Anybody can put up with me for an hour. I consider when they say
you and I can do 2 hours.
Yeah.
Thank you for stopping by.
Great to see you, Bob. Thanks for having me.
Sheriff Tom Hodgson, Bristol County House of Corrections, Bristol County Sheriff.
Thanks.
And I'll have you again, too, this year.
Love to.
All right.
Thanks.
And folks, thank you for stopping and spending an hour with Bob and the Sheriff.